Hi everyone, it's Sarah from Equestrian Movement, and I am coming live for the very first session of the Stronger Bond workshop. So please do let me know if you can hear me. I'm just scrolling down so I can make sure I can see some comments. Hopefully I'll actually be able to see some things. If you see me looking over to the side, it's because I've got two screens going, just making sure that everything's working. And it looks like it is. And Katie's all good to go as well. So welcome guys. I'm super duper excited that we've actually been able to come to you guys again for another Stronger Bond workshop this year. It's one of those events that Katie and I, we love sharing. Um, we love participating with you and sharing our experiences and having you share your own experiences so we can learn and grow together as horse people and horse lovers. Yay, Katie is reaffirming that that I am good and my audio is working. So for anybody who's joining, say hi. Let me know where you're coming from. Let me know what the temperature is. At the moment, it's kind of cold in Queensland, in southeast Queensland at the very least. And we're feeling it a bit. I'm all rugged up with a blankie over my lap at the moment. Of course, it's cold by Queensland standards, which is typically quite warm. So anything under 20 degrees is classified as cold here. But if you're popping in live, do let me know where you're coming in from. We have a few things to go through over the next 3 days, and we want to make sure this is the best experience for you guys, in that you get to participate live, you get to ask your questions of us as we continue to go through it, and of course, if there's opportunities, I guess, to show and reflect some of the experiences that we've had that might emulate your own, then we're happy to share those as well. Of course, while I'm just chatting at the moment, I'm just letting some people jump on. I know there will be a number of people who've set their notifications so that they're actually getting a um, getting a notice to be told that the live has started. But some of us are also just going to be trying to refresh our screens to see it actually come up as well. So I'll chat for a little bit for the first maybe 5 minutes to give people an opportunity to jump in. Hey Pam, how are you? It's a balmy 9 degrees. Actually, we're about 9 degrees here at the moment. So we're definitely in similar situation, but we're technically in our winter. So I guess it's okay for us. Um, Balmy 9 degrees sounds really nice weather for you in Canada. Hey Claire from Northern New South Wales, how are you? I hope you're staying safe and that the weather that's a little further down isn't impacting you at the moment. We've got another Australian coming into. Hi, Marie, over there in South Gippsland. Thank you guys so much for joining and participating. There will be a few things that I'll run you guys through as well, just about a little bit of housekeeping. Once we've got a few more viewers on, I just want to give them enough time to jump in. But I think while I'm waiting for them, I may as well just share with you, I guess, some of this, one of the reasons why we've actually started putting these Stronger Bond workshops together. And we've been doing them online for close to, well, I think we're coming up to our 3rd year now, Katie. Wow. Um, but the whole idea of this Stronger Bond workshop is to I guess, help you guys identify where you might be struggling from a horse perspective, from a horse ownership or a horse interaction perspective, but also to let you know that, if you are struggling and you want to work in a slightly different way to the way that you're being told, that's okay, because we were very much like that in the beginning. And Katie will share her very own experiences when she was fired by her coach for wanting to work a different way with her horse. It's okay if you want to work in a slightly different way. It's okay if you recognize some things that just don't sit well with you. We have our own values and philosophies. This is the whole point of the Stronger Bond workshop, is to give you that encouragement and that power to be the own person for your horse, and then to realize that you are actually the right person to work with your horse. There's so much benefit to actually, working and participating and enjoying your horse's presence. So that's the reason why we started doing these Stronger Bond workshops, we did originally have them quite lengthy, and we have shortened them because we know that there's a lot of content that we can ramble on about. And yes, we are yammerers slash ramblers. We can go off on a fun little tangent on occasion. The reason for that is we're so passionate about making sure that you guys get what you need out of it. We obviously have our own programs that, like the holistic horse handling program, our mini courses that are available for additional support. This workshop is really to help you identify what you need to move forward as well. So I see that there's a number of people jumping on. So what I might do is, if nobody has any questions, I might first of all just crack into the housekeeping. And of course, if I'm talking too fast, or if I am rambling, or if my accent gets very Australian because we're up here in Queensland in Australia, and you're struggling to follow, just let me know, and I'll a quick little check so that I can pace myself and try not to speak too Aussie. We also have some very strange slang words that we may use on occasion. If you're not sure what that means, just pipe up and ask. There's it's become quite interesting. Over the last 3 years, meeting all these horse lovers across the globe, and understanding that in Australia we have some very, very odd or unique terms that are used, and sometimes those terms aren't necessarily as clear. So if you are struggling to understand a word that I say, please don't think you're dumb. Don't think that we would make fun of you, because we definitely would never do that. It's usually just some weird Aussie slang that Katie and I have been using for some period of time, and we forget that not everybody tends to know some of the words that we speak. So please do ask, put your hands up. Now, for those of you guys who haven't noticed yet, you'll also notice that our head coach, Katie, is loitering in the comments right now. So you feel free to ask whatever questions you are. She's here in a little bit of a support role for me while I run through the initial component, which is the initial workshop session, which is the conflicted equestrian. And we split these up a little bit. One, because we spend a lot of time on the lives, and it just makes it easier for us. But two, because we can share our own experiences, and you can identify where you guys actually sit um, in that, and direct your questions to either Katie or myself, whoever you feel much more comfortable with, or whoever you feel related to. Katie is our head coach at Equestrian Movement. I am, I guess, the trainer in training, essentially. I've been working with Katie for a very, very long time, and we've had Equestrian Movement, uh, I guess, together for about 4 years. 4 years now. So we have journeyed fair way together in this equine journey. Katie's done it a lot longer than I have, and I'll introduce myself a little bit more in the moment. Now, in this Stronger Bond workshop, quick reminder, tonight is session one. We have 3 other sessions outside of that. We have one tomorrow night at 8:30, which is about the horse's behavior and what they've been showing you. Then on Thursday night, we bring the 2 sessions, our conflicted equestrian and the concerned horse, together, and make sure you understand why we've been talking about these and why we've kind of separated them out a little bit, because we bring them together on the Thursday. That's again at 8:30 at night. So whatever time you happens to be in your local area right now, repeat that for the next 2 days, and that's when those sessions are. On Friday, though, Katie's going to jump in the morning in Australia, which is going to be 9 a.m. Australia time. So 12 hours, essentially 12 hours after our Thursday training session. And sorry, I just got the comment about the Irish accent. Wherever you happen to be, just add 12 hours onto the Thursday session, and that's where the final session will be. And that's going to be the fun one. It's the Q&A. Our repeat attenders for the Stronger Bond workshop love the Q&A, because this is when we can get really in depth in some of those questions that have come up across the workshop, where maybe we've not had quite as much time in the individual sessions to go through some of them. So do pop in. do make sure you save some time for that. It's really worth your time if you can participate live, especially if your question is one of the ones that it does get brought up on that day. We can work it a little bit deeper for you and confirm that you understand I guess, the content and the response we have for you. Hey, Mel, it's lovely to have you. Super wet, miserable. Yeah, I get you. I hate it. Hi, Hannah. Lovely to meet you and see you coming live. We're so excited to see you. So now one of the things we do want you to do is we want you guys to get together and communicate and share your experiences. We know that sometimes it can feel a little uncomfortable to do that, but this space is a very safe environment. Katie and I have spent 3+ years creating this safe community and ensuring that all we are doing here is supporting each other, as opposed to creating, I guess, negative or, I guess, any form of conflict in here. So feel safe to comment, to ask your questions, to even share your experiences. But if you don't feel safe, you are more than welcome to reach out directly to either Katie or myself through direct messenger, or you can shoot back a reply to an email. We are more than happy to respond in those ways as well, because we do know, we've been parts of equine communities where it's where you don't feel safe to ask questions or to comment because you feel like you will be belittled or have some form of negative response to the way that you want to work with your horse, and that's not what we're about. We have a very holistic approach to that, to working with your horse, and part of that is working with you as an individual and working with your horse as the unique individual that you both are. No partnership in the equestrian team is going to be the same. So these are the key goals. So those are the sessions. You can catch replays. We encourage you to get on us live as much as possible because it really does give you that chance to get your questions answered. But if you do happen to miss a session, understandably, the replays are available. They'll stay available until Tuesday the 13th, Tuesday the 12th. Sorry, I'm adding an extra date on, so available until next Tuesday. So you've got a week from today to watch all of the sessions. We like to do that just so you've got a weekend, because we know that some of us do have, unfortunately, to work for a living, and that means that we don't get to spend as much time doing the things we love, which is learning and growing with our horse. So the replays will be there, but once those replays are, once it gets to Tuesday the 12th at 9 p.m. in Australian Eastern Standard Times, we are taking those replays down. We have at the moment our holistic horse handling program open for new enrollments. We have new students coming on board. Part of the onboarding process is this Stronger Bond workshop. And then we need to take those questions down out of the Stronger Bond community so that we can focus on our new students and help support them through the program and their initiation in the program as well. So that's why we take it down. Also, Katie and I, these workshops are always somewhat different. We have a tendency to go on a tangent and we don't always remember off the top of our head exactly what we've said. So it takes some time for us to collate our memories and bring it through. We're usually relatively good, but after a period of 1 to 2 weeks, we're starting to struggle to remember which episode was what and what we were talking about at the time. So that's the other reason why we take them down. So if you are catching replays, make sure you hashtag replay. Let us know that you're catching it from the replay section, and that that you only have the chance to watch these until Tuesday next week. All right, on to our next big things. Now, you would have received emails and even notifications in this group about our workbook, which, if the participants of our Stronger Bond workshops previous, you will notice is quite different this time. We have decided to go slightly different tangents so that you guys can focus a little bit more specifically on your issues and developing yourself rather than making you take notes all the way through. It also helps us with our flow as well. So the workbook is really, really new and exciting for us in its new presentation. So I love that Katie's already got big tangents in mind. We will be sharing a lot of our own experiences in there. And in actual fact, I've written my own notes down so that in those tasks, so that I can talk through my own particular experiences that I have had, and how it's kind of come to that fruition where I do actually have now this beautiful confidence with horses and feel like I can um, work through majority of issues, even if I still do need some support sometimes. On that note, with regards to the workbook, if you didn't haven't received the link for the workbook, put a note in the comments or shout out, send us a DM. Um, I won't be able to send it to you now because I'm live, unfortunately, but I'll be able to send it to you afterwards. But with regards to that workbook, there is actually 7 tasks that we've actually put into the workbook. They're not hard, they're not arduous. It's more just so that we can reflect on a particular time in our experience with our horse where things might not have gone quite right. And that was actually the pre-work that I was talking about, was to make a note of a particular experience you have had with your horse at some point where things just didn't quite go right, where maybe um, perhaps your horse is giving you a response you weren't expecting, perhaps it made you feel uncomfortable, worried, confused, that type of thing. Maybe it's something that occurs and reoccurs. Maybe it's a one-time thing and you've possibly gotten over it, but you can recognize that this was a pretty big event in yours and your horse's relationship and connection. So that's what we wanted you guys to do. And if you haven't done that, do take that time to make a couple of quick notes on that. What was the experience? What did your horse do? What was your response to what your horse did, and how did it make you feel? Those are the key things we want you to think about. It sounds like it's a negative thing to think about, but the reason we're doing this is we're going to be taking you all the way through identifying how we could approach these situations in a way that isn't going to shatter our connection with our horse and isn't going to make us feel like we're in no longer safe to work with our horse as well. So I will share a bit of my own experience in a moment when we talk about this, but I've got one last thing that I need to talk about. First of all, I am going to take a sip of my cuppa though. All right. Last thing before we crack into the workshop. Your participation live is going to give you the best benefit out of this. I've said this a couple of times already. I'm hoping you guys are getting that. But we're also rewarding participants for joining us live. So we are going to do a draw on Thursday night session for those that have participated in our live workshop. So we want you guys commenting, interacting, sharing some of your experience. One of you will get the opportunity to select one of our mini courses out of either the opening communications course or the learning with games mini course. 2 little fun courses to go that will just set you on a particular pathway that can really change, I guess, the way you're interacting with your horse. So great opportunity. Make sure you're commenting, liking, sharing your own experiences. Sorry, there was a little bug just then that went straight in front of my face. Share your own experiences if you feel comfortable with doing that, but at least reaffirm that you guys are here. And just as a little hint and a cheat, Katie loves rainbows and unicorns, and I, aside from being an enthusiastic equine person, I am also a crazy cat lady. So horse and cat emojis and gifts, you win me over. So participate. I'm not saying that if you give me gifts, you will be selected, but just put your participations here. Make sure you're commenting and joining us live in these sessions. Let us know that you're here live so we know that we can put you into the draw. All right, now let's crack on to the workshop. We are going to be focusing on day 1, but I want to share with you, I guess, that particular experience and events where I didn't feel like something was going right. And I'm going to talk about 2 because there were, I guess, 2 big significant moments in my horsemanship career that really did highlight, I guess, that there was some issues and that I needed to change. I needed to do something to change something. So I'm going to very first of all talk about the first ever mare that I worked with. For those of you guys who haven't met me before, you probably don't know that I actually came to horse handling quite late in my life. I've always had this crazy passion for horses, but never had a very strong opportunity to get actively involved. dabbled a little bit, had some lessons when I was a kid, had some lessons when I was an adult, but really like had never owned my own horse, had never really done much in the way of actively participating with um, the day-to-day life of a horse. In fact, most I could do was like borrow a friend's pony or ride on a school horse and the occasional like paid trail mountain ride kind of thing. So I was really, really lucky that incidentally made a friend through work who happened to also be a crazy horse lady and happened to also be looking for someone with a mutual mindset that might want to ride with her. And I was like, yep, pick me, I'll do it. And she brought me out and she introduced me to Natalia. And Natalia, or Natty as we call her, a beautiful grey Arab mare. She was around about, I think she was about 10 or 11 years old when I first met her. And she just gorgeous, just gorgeous. She's, I don't know what year. It was love at first sight. Let's just be honest. It was love at first sight as far as I was concerned. And it wasn't quite that way for Natty with me, but she certainly was like, oh yeah, little human. Yeah, baby equestrian. I can look after you. And she did. And for a good 6 months, we were riding together, and then there started to get some friction. I started noticing that she would bolt when I rocked up at the paddock, and it would take forever to catch her. We had to cheat and bring her in for breakfast and then lock her in so that we could keep her. Um, Claire, I love that you're about to get your own horse, which is a lifelong dream. So good. But yeah, so that was Natty. She started bolting whenever I arrived, which of course was breaking my heart because I loved her dearly. And the sheer sight of my car arriving meant that she was at the far end of the paddock, which was by no mean feat a small paddock either. It was a good 80 or something acres, I think that. Um, I can't quite remember how big it was. Lisa, you'll have to confirm that. The, you know, then as I was growing with my riding and I was trying to make her do things, and I brought in an instructor to help me out, and I would be asking her to do something and she would just be not okay with it. And it wasn't that there were big behaviors happening. She wasn't dumping me on the ground. She wasn't bolting off. She wasn't like, doing anything that was extremely scary. It was just very clear that she was not okay with me taking some form of the lead. So that's when I started questioning, like, why won't she do something? Why won't she trot normally? Why does she keep running away? So that's the experience number one. The second experience happened not long after, probably about 6 months after. Unfortunately, we lost Natty. I'd been working with her for nearly 3 years, and we lost her to a disease. Um, the which was very, very heartbreaking. And I started working with another horse. And probably about 4 months after I started working with him, I I had a big meltdown. I had such a big cry in the saddle that day. He, I'd gone from Natty, who knew how to look after somebody, to a horse that had no idea how to really interact with humans in any way, and didn't trust them. And he would just do these. He would go into these anxious, fretty moments, and that would freak me out. I'd get really scared, and that, of course, would make him even more scared. And then he would shut down, and he would just close himself off. And he had no idea, as I said, how to look after a person, and I had no idea where to go forward with that. Um, that day that I cried in the saddle was the day that Katie said, "Look, you're just going to have to make up your mind as to whether or not you have to decide if this is what you want. If you want to continue working with him, you have to make that decision." And of course, I did. I, I did, and we continued on. But those are my two big experiences. In both of those situations, I felt like I was just not good enough. When I was working with Natty, I knew I was not good enough because I was green. Like, I knew I was very inexperienced. So it didn't jar me as much to start looking for assistance. It did jar me that she didn't like me as much as I wanted to during those periods. But with Custard, I'd had a lot of experience under my belt. I'd been working for an extended period of time with Katie by that stage, because Katie wasn't the first instructor that I worked with, unfortunately. We brought her out about a year into my relationship with Natty, and we did see things changing dramatically from there. But I had all these skills, and I was getting really worried as to why I just didn't seem to be okay with Custard trying to use these skills that I developed. So that's a little bit about my pain sob story. Sorry, I do wonder if some of you guys are feeling in a similar way, and do shout out if you've had something similar in that experience, or let me know if you've had something that's a bit scarier in there. I know that some of us have had experiences where our horses are a little bit more aggressive with their intentions. So rather than being spooky or I guess just kind of a bit rude and huffish, as I would say, Natty was probably trying to do her best to look after me, but tell me that I was wrong. I know that some people have experienced situations where their horses will bulldoze over the top of them, or will actually go into bucking, bolting fits, or perhaps even kicking, biting, lashing out, trying to hurt them. So let us know if you want to share that experience. Let us know if you've been in those types of situations as well. So now we're going to crack into half an hour in, 25 minutes in. Now we're going to crack into our day one, which is all about the conflicted equestrian. So we're going to talk about two different things here. Now, the very first thing that I want to talk about is the mindset that we have a tendency to have when we start working with our horses. I'd love to know if anybody here has a goal with their horse. Like, what do you want to get out of your horse? Like, what do you want to be doing with your horse? When I first started with Natty, and Katie came along to the very first lesson, she asked me, what is it you want to do with Natty? And I said, I want a canter and I want to compete. That was me. I was going to go do dressage. I didn't even know what was required of dressage at that particular time, but I was going to go do dressage because it looked so pretty, and I wanted to canter because I'd never cantered on a horse before. So the I'd like to know if you guys have had some of those particular experiences. Hannah, you've been in my situation too, crying in the saddle. Yep. Yeah, and always the well-intended advice from friends. Sometimes that always makes us really heartbroken and harder to sort of move on and reflect when we need to. So yeah, working on your belief in your abilities now, and I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I think that's absolutely brilliant. But talking about goals, anybody had a particular goal in mind with regards to your writing? Share them with me. There's a little bit of lag in the Facebook feed, so I'm going to start moving on a little bit in just a moment, but I just want to give you guys a chance to tell me some of the goals you have with your horse. Like, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to do? You want to compete? Do you want to be able to go out and trail ride? Do you want a horse that perhaps likes to jump a meter? Sally, you want to get on and go out on trails? Yes. Claire, you don't have. Claire, you're cheating. I do love it though. You want to be able to have effective communication with them, that you can understand them. I love it. That is so good. I think a lot of us, when we do have some of these goals that are very action orientated, like what we want to achieve, sometimes we lose a little bit of our focus on what is actually participating and how it's actually progressing as well. So the big thing the big way of, I guess, avoiding that conflict that comes from wanting to achieve our own goals is to start working on connection first. Mel, you were helping a friend by rugging and feeding. Oh, spooky puppies. Oh. Sorry, he spooked into your face. Oh my gosh, terrible. That is a really awesome goal, Mel. I think that's exactly what you need to be doing because we don't want them speaking on top of us. When they're speaking on top of us, they have no idea that they're there and they're not trying to look after us, which is kind of a scary situation to be in when they're in that full, fight, flight, or freeze mode. But anyway, we look at that connection. Yeah, Hannah, you want to be able to trial, you want to be able to do it solo. Perfect. Yeah. Like these are great goals. Like it's not horrible to have goals, but when we focus solely on our goal, we tend to lose our focus on what the horse needs. And then the horse has to communicate with us what they need. And unfortunately, they have to do that in some very fun ways, which is usually through behavior. And tomorrow we will talk a lot more about those particular behaviors that you'll actually see. So um, do do participate tomorrow to learn a little bit particularly, and feel free to ask those questions. Like if you've got particular situations, like for example, Mel, you're talking about the spooky horse. What could your spooky horse be telling you? Ask those questions. We're more than happy to answer them. But when we do focus more on that connection as our first point in our training and then work towards our goals, what happens is there's this massive flow-on effect. So first of all, our horses feel like they're being heard by us, which builds a level of trust. Um, their confidence in us starts to grow, and our confidence also starts to grow because we start to adjust to what our horse needs instead of pushing them through it. And how many times have you been told, push him through it, or he's going to be naughty, or push him through it, or you're going to create a dangerous horse? If your horse doesn't do exactly what you tell it to do, that's wrong. And again, we'll talk a lot more about this in depth. Katie would delve right into this tomorrow. How many times have you felt, being told that particular message and then felt, oh my God, I cannot do this. I am not good enough to ride horses. Um, Once we start seeing that level of confidence in each other build, our desire to look after each other builds as well. It grows. And that's one of those really, um, I think, really special parts about horsemanship that very few other sports have that opportunity to build. It's a real team environment, but it's a team environment that's built on a massive amount of trust and I guess affection, connection, and we're up on these horses' backs. We have to trust that they're going to look after us. Um, and from the horse's perspective, they've got teeny tiny little predator sitting on the back of their on the back of their shoulders. They need to, well, not quite their shoulders, you know what I mean, on their back. They need to be able to trust that we're not going to do anything that's going to put them in some form of danger or get them hurt. So it's a really big thing. So our partnership develops and grows, and we feel a lot less of that friction. And that friction is what is damaging our confidence, which is what causes that worry, which makes us feel like we're doing something wrong, which makes us feel like we're not good enough. That is it. So that friction, that's the conflicted equestrian. So if you hear us talking about the conflicted equestrian, we're talking about the person that is feeling that level of friction. And even if the friction isn't obvious because your horse isn't displaying really big behaviors, yes, Claire, you're absolutely right. Being shouted to send him on and give him a good smack, that doesn't that's the push them on method. That's push them through it method. And for some horses, it's going to severely damage a connection. And for others, it puts us at risk, depending on what horse, what type of personality we're working on and what history that horse has, you know, we could actually put ourselves in some level of danger if we don't give our horses that chance to communicate and we don't focus on that connection first so that our horse feels comfortable to use more subtle behaviors or more subtle body language to communicate their worry or their inability to do something with us. So one of the things I do find is really, really helpful is you probably noticed that when I was talking about Natty, I was asking questions about that particular situation with Natty. Why won't Natty trot properly? Why does Natty run away? I was focused on the problem rather than a problem that was interfering with the goal. And when we do this simple mind shift change and we go from asking things like, how can I fix this problem? Or how can I get my horse to do XYZ? Or why won't my horse do XYZ? When we start to change our mindset and start to ask these different questions like, what does my horse need from me? How can I support my horse in this? How can we grow together? What can I reward my horse for? I think that the reward my horse for was one of the big ones that I have actually discovered that actually helps alleviate my anxiety and fear when I'm in the saddle, because it means I'm looking for positive things for both of us. So, you know, these are really big mind shift things. So when I think about the situation with Natty, what I should have been asking is, what did Natty need from me? And when it came to Custard, it was, how can I be someone that Custard can trust? How can I develop that trusting inside Custard so that he can trust that I will look after him? So that's a little bit of the way that we start to reduce that conflict that is happening. But it's not the only way. And I'm going to shuffle across to the second page of day one, which I think is technically page 4 of the workbook. But before we do, I want you guys to think about that situation that you wrote down and that experience that you had. And then think, what mind shift could you make? Like, what question would be better suited to start building your own curiosity and trying to, which naturally reduces our anxiety. And Katie will talk a lot more in depth about that with all the hormones and stuff. I'm sure she's got, I probably just added another tangent to her list. But, you know, think about what you could ask in that particular experience as well. And feel free to share it if you want to. If you feel uncomfortable doing it, just send us a DM or an email if you want us to respond in kind. This is the part that just really solidifies, I guess, what your key takeaways from this workshop is going to be. And we want to make sure you get some really good insight into what your next best steps are going to be when it comes to working with your horse. I see you guys are all chatting about trail rides and breaks, which is awesome. I love that we're so passionate and so happy to be a lot more comfortable there. Um, oh, scary roads, trucks. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of riding around the roads, I don't think. I've been fairly lucky that I haven't had too much experience in that area, and certainly nothing that's ever been negative. But I know that a lot of people do have negative experiences, and a lot of horses do get traumatized by it. And I think even Katie at the moment is dealing with some anxiety that Fiddy has around cars passing him when he's near the road as well. So all part and parcel of the challenge that is horse riding and horse ownership and horse loving, because if we didn't want to do this, we would all ride motorbikes, which are much more, I guess, resilient unless you run them into a tree. Okay, so going into our second page of the workshop, which is page 4, the second page of day 1. We talk about, you know, we've spoken about that mind shift and the fact that if we change a little bit of that focus, it actually can alleviate our anxiety because we start to produce this level of curiosity that helps relax us. But there are certain things, certain skills we need to be able to develop to have, I guess, this powerfully connected team. And that's what the goal is all about, is we work on this connection-based training. And through the holistic horse handling methodology that Katie created, you know, there's particular pathways that we do follow that create this whole unit of a powerfully connected team, where you've got a horse that wants to look after you, you want to look after your horse, you're both working together towards the big goals that you have set, but you know how to chunk it down, and you know how, when things aren't quite going to plan, because guess what, that's going to happen, that you know how to de-escalate that and bring it back down to those foundations in there. So there's a few things that we need to be able to do as equestrians, as horse lovers, even as people that own horses that just live in the paddock, that ensure that we have the foundation solidified. And you can see here on the 4th page, which is and I forget what they call three interlocking circles, but three key pillars of the holistic horse handling methodology is about compassionate leadership, creating willingness, and helping to support emotional agility. And all of these are areas that we need to be able to work on. And when we are able to bring those skills, even in the early stages, what we start to do is we start to build trust, faith, and confidence into our partnership as equestrians, and that creates what we call, what's referred to as psychological safety, where the horse feels safe to be able to express themselves in a way that doesn't have to be a kind of a life or death situation. And you feel safe and secure and confident that if there is, thanks, Melanie, Venn diagram, perfect. But you feel safe, secure, and confident yourself in not only processing what your horse has asked of you, but making decisions based on the facts that you happen to know. That's part of what is being a compassionate leader is. But first and foremost, it's always about knowing your values. What are the things that you value, and what are the things you won't compromise on? The there obviously, when it comes to there was a bit of a debate happening recently in the Stronger Bond community. It was a very healthy debate. But we talked about, there was a question asked about instructors that didn't really mesh with your philosophies. And I'm a big person of, and Katie will say the same, take what you can learn out of that person, and adjust it, I guess, put it through your own filter so you know whether or not you're going to be happy to do that, or if you're not going to be happy to do that. And then tell them, yes, yes, I can, no, I can't. And if it's in a situation where I've been traveling and I've just wanted a little bit of pony time, so I went to a local riding school and they've given me some instructions where I'm like, I don't really agree with that, but I'll try something that has worked before with another horse that I think would work with this horse. And it does, so it's just about putting some of your own filters on it. Then sometimes it's just playing really, really, as we've said, playing really, really dumb, and then analyzing it later as well. But that's where the compassionate leadership comes in. It's knowing your values, the reason why you want to work with horses, and what you want to achieve with that connection. Because, again, if we wanted to work with an animate, like if we just wanted a push button situation, if we wanted an animal, like if we want a horse that we jump on, we ride, and just because we put the right leg on at the right time, it definitely 100% all the time clears a meter 10, and it never tells you anything, and it's never connected to you, and that kind of thing. Well, you may as well, as we say, ride motorbikes. The whole point of us being attracted to horsemanship is because they are sentient beings, and they're highly emotional sentient beings that we have a lot of respect for and a lot of affection for. That is what has drawn us to them first and foremost. So think about that as part of your founding values in there as well. Learning how to listen to your horse is really a really important aspect, and then becoming okay with adjusting your goalposts. As I said, it's okay to have those goals, but sometimes those goals need to be adjusted on that particular day. One very fun situation of recent. So unfortunately, I've worked with a lot of horses of late, and I've had a little bit of bad luck with horses of late. In that, incidentally, they just happened to have passed away. Natty did have a pretty aggressive cancer, and Custard, he was actually quite old when we started working with him, and we discovered that he was a lot older than we actually thought, and he passed away of an old age related disease around about this time last year. I'm now working with one of Katie's school horses, Gunner, who's a Australian draft horse, about 950 kilos of black fluffy pony. And I recently, just with work and weather and a few other things that were happening, I've not had had the opportunity to spend any time with him for about 3 weeks before that. And nobody else had been working with him for those similar reasons. He got his basic care, and he got let out with some of the other horses, but really there was no interaction going with him. And because Katie and I have spent so much time fostering this willingness, he was really excited to be in with work. I've gone down to the paddock to bring him up to come in and do some groundwork and some written work. You can see he's really excited. He was so excited he actually trotted to the front gate, which is very rare for Gunner. He just had this level of energy, and he did nothing naughty. I just could feel that because we worked so heavily on our connection, could feel that level of energy and knew that he needed to, I guess, just play and let off some steam. So I brought him out of his paddock into the interim paddock between the um, you know paddocks and the walkway. So we're still in on the paddock. I was like, you know what? We'll just have a little bit of a play down here because I think you're going to be silly and there's kids working in the arena at the moment. Let's see what you do. Let him go. And we just started doing a little bit of work at Liberty, and then all of a sudden you could just see him just go, my God, this is too fun. And he got so excited he just started cantering and cantering and cantering around in this paddock like an absolute spaz. He was just letting go of this excitement and steam and all of that. There was nothing malicious in it. There was nothing that you know nothing that I could really do to stop him from doing it, because he was at liberty. So I was just like, yeah, sure, that's what you need. You go ahead. I'm just going to put myself behind the gate because you were getting a little bit crazy. And he just let off that steam. Now, if I'd been very goal orientated, like I've got a limited amount of time, I've got to get you up and settled up, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. If I'd just focused on those goals instead of noticing and utilizing the connection that we built, I would have had a very high energy 950 kilo draft horse that would have just let it all go under the saddle. And that wouldn't have made me feel safe. That would have made him feel very frustrated because I would have tried to rein all of that in. And we wouldn't have had a positive experience. Instead, he was allowed to let play downstairs, and we're like, right, well, okay, you need that energy. And to be fair, it's kind of my fault. I haven't been around for 3 weeks. You need to let this go. He was comfortable in telling me he was really excited and wanted to play. That's where, that connection has allowed me to just go, right, well, you need it. I'm happy to let you have it. I'm just going to adjust my goalpost and we'll have a shorter ride. That's okay. So that's where compassionate leadership comes in. When we set ourselves up as a compassionate leader, we become a person that our horse wants to follow and trusts to look after them and keep them safe. And that's a really important aspect. When we're greener, like I was with Natty when I was very young, very muchly newer to the equestrian sport, and she herself was actually very experienced at handling children or newer riders, not just children, but newer riders, beginner riders. She herself had a lot of confidence in herself and she knew how to look after people. And so when I tried to put my bossy boots on and tell her she had to do something, and that, and the fact that she was very confident in being able to make those decisions herself, the fact that she wasn't confident in being able to make those decisions, and me being able to make those decisions for her because I was so naive, and add to that she had a little bit of mare sass, it meant that we started creating friction. So when it came to Natty in that particular environment, I needed to start to build some trust in her, in me as a leader, and then create some new willingness after I'd kind of shattered most of it. And that's why she was hightailing it whenever I rocked up, because she was just like, nah, don't want to have this fight anymore. I'm going away. Custard, on the other hand, he really needed the compassionate leadership, the willingness, and that emotional agility, where we help build confidence in themselves, their environment, and their training sessions, building trust in us as leaders to follow, and helping them to feel safe to relax, and during work as well. So he needed a lot of that. Now, as I said, I've been working with Katie for a good period of time now. I can't even think off the top of my head how long I've been working with Katie for as my instructor. But I'd been with her for about 2 years before I started working with Custard, and with again continuing on for another about 6 months before I had my meltdown in the saddle. And I obviously went, yep, right, I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to have to do it. I want to do this. I do want to do it. I do love it. I need to find a way around it. I started moving forward. And it wasn't long after that that Katie and I started partnering together to work on equestrian movement and to build this. And what that meant was that Katie, as the instructor, started writing down her lesson plans, exactly how she was teaching me the entire way through. But breaking it right down into steps, methods, reflection, all of those types of things. And this is what was the very first version of the holistic horse handling methodology. So it's all all there written out step by step. And what happened was I was putting it together as a course for her, and because I just wanted to make sure that what was being written on paper translated easily to practice, I started practicing it with Custard. And it was in those moments when suddenly we had an incident where he just looked at me and went, right, you are somebody that I can trust as a leader, that will look after me, keep me safe, and make good decisions for me. And that was the absolute changing moment. That was what made the difference. Once I'd started working with Katie on, like, started helping Katie with those lesson plans, I could see how everything flowed on. And the reason I wasn't getting it is because while I had the instruction, I didn't have the insight yet to be able to reflect and put that to the unique personality that was Custard, who was very, very different to Natty. That was the game changer for me. That was the day that my confidence levels started soaring, where I was just like, yep, nope, I'm fine. I had other people in the paddock that were just going, oh, Custard, stop being silly, because he was having a little flip out about being stuck in a paddock and not being able to get past another horse. And instead of just kind of rolling with them and going, oh, ha, yes, he's being silly, I went, no, he needs me. He needs some level of emotional support right now. Let me direct that. Let me help him get past this horse, which I did. And we got past it. He turned around, looked at me, kind of gave me this little, and then went off to his little mare, who at the time was fairly herd bound to. And as our relationship grew, his attachment to that mare decreased. And even though they stayed as herd buddies, he wouldn't freak out when he couldn't see her anymore. He spent a lot more time being comfortable in, big distances away from her, and huge preference to being with me, to the point where he actually chased her away at points. He wanted to connect and have that relationship. And for me, that is what I want to have with horses. That is what I want to do with horses. The, cantering and riding and trail riding and going to a competition, they're all going to be great. They're going to be fun. I did a obstacle day with Gunner a couple of months back, and it was superb. It was so exciting. It was so fun. But the big thing that I really, really took away from that was all the emotional agility work that we'd done, that leadership work, the willingness work. He was happy to focus and stay relaxed in an environment that was completely new and completely and utterly busy with other horses and strange people. Like, that is what I went away from that and went, tick. That is what I want. I want those types of connections. I want those relationships with those horses. So hopefully you guys are wanting that too. And the way we get that is by becoming compassionate leaders, developing or helping our horses to develop emotional agility as we build some of our own as well. Because it's amazing how, as we do this with our horses, how very muchly it does. And fostering that willingness, and all of this goes two ways. The more we work as compassionate leaders, the more trust our horse builds in us, the more trust we put into our horse. As our horses build more emotional agility and confidence in us, we build more confidence in our horse as well. And we build more confidence in ourselves because we can actually see it working. And as we foster that willingness, not only does our horse want to work with us and want to look after us during that, we also want to work with our horse and listen to our horse. And we create this level of flexible partnership that means we work as a true team dynamic. We're truly a powerfully connected equestrian team. So that is me for today. Hopefully you guys have gotten something out of that that's really benefited you tonight. Tomorrow, Katie's going to go into talking about the concerned horse, and this is going to be focusing on some of the behaviors that you may have seen. It's really worth doing that, and listening through and sharing any of the behaviors you might have experienced yourself, so that you can, um, you can, I guess, learn a lot more about your own particular situation. And on our third night, on Thursday night, we're going to put these two together to show you exactly how the holistic horse handling methodology, layers upon layers upon layers, all of the skills we need to build this healthy foundation, so that we have the faith, the trust, the confidence in each other. We have this powerfully connected team, and we know where we need to bring it back to when our challenges do arise, because every time a challenge does arrive, there will be something. Our horse might suddenly need to be medicated and they've never been medicated before. We might have an emergency, like the east coast of Australia is experiencing once again. We might have emergency floods, and the horse needs to trust us in a semi-dangerous situation to lead them and follow. These crises are going to come up, and when those crises happen, they're going to challenge the foundations, and they're going to challenge our partnership. The goal of that is to know that there's challenges that are going to be there, is to understand and recognize that there are foundations that we know will repair those micro tears that might happen in the relationship. We go back, we do that, and we come back again. So that's it for me tonight. Thank you guys so much for participating. Again, I hope you guys loved it. It'll be Katie tomorrow night, 8:30. Share your aha moments if you've had them. If you want to share some of your own notes, please do. I know, like, for example, Claire, you don't necessarily have a horse right now, but maybe you've had experience with another horse in the past that you can use as an example, which can just help you build some of those skills. I know, Mel, you're working with another horse, so that's perfectly fine. Just work with whatever experience you've particularly got, because I want you to get as much out of it as possible. Have a lovely evening, and I can't wait to get you guys to Thursday night so we can start working with your horses as a powerfully connected equestrian team. All right, bye.